Okay, I'm Jose Santiago. I'm doing this video for a request for proposal from Peggy Covert and World Forums. I don't videotape large public sessions. I don't do large public sessions. I do sessions with private clients. My last session that included any of this material was for the Board of Directors and the CEO of Hawaii Pacific Health. And there's no way my clients would allow a videoing of any of the work that I do for them. I've been working on this all my life. I promise I'll make this video very short and sweet. I've been working on this all my life, and I'm only now beginning to take on the task of bringing it out to the world and making it massively public, because what I have pursued and what has come about in terms of the science to back it up is simply extraordinary. It is beyond belief, really. It's a new way of thinking and new access to new information that no one has conceived of. And I've been pursuing it even before there was a science to back it up. But I'm going to use a very simple example here to make it clear that there's a difference between linear thinking and non-linear thinking. And I'm going to be very precise about what those things mean, exactly precise. Most people are not when they talk about those things. There's a lot of ambiguity. I'm also going to talk about disruptive innovations. And most people, when they're talking about innovation, use the whole possibility of continuous innovations or continuous improvements as an out. But I'm going to be very defined and very clear about what I mean by disruptive innovation. I think most organizations are really actually fearful or don't understand what a disruptive innovation actually is. I also want to apologize for my voice. I've been getting over the flu, so my voice is all foggy here. Anyway, I'm going to use two products as an example. And I want to add the caveat that an innovation is never a product, ever. Anyone that tells you that innovation is a product doesn't understand the nature of innovation. And innovation is product is the consequence of an innovation. But the product itself is not the innovation. The innovation came in a concept that resolved a conflict of paradigms that existed before that. So the two products that I'm going to use as examples to get to the innovations behind them are one from Microsoft and one from Apple. And they're products that you've probably used or are certainly familiar with. The one from Microsoft is simply Microsoft Word, a word processing software that we have used for decades, mostly because there's no choice. Everybody uses it. You got to communicate with your clients. You got to send them back and forth the files that are in the right format. The other product is the Apple iPad. People think, oh, Apple came up with the idea of let's invent a great tablet. No. That wasn't Apple's great innovation. If you think that, you're missing the mark completely, and you're misunderstanding how innovations, the right single innovation, can fuel profits for decades. Look at Microsoft. And here's the Microsoft example. What Microsoft's innovation was creating a uniform uniform operating system across platforms, which nobody had been able to do, which is extraordinary. It was also perfectly linear. And what I mean by linearity is this. There's a very clear definition. And when I tell you the definition, this is what you're going to be thinking. You're going to be thinking, but what else is there? Watch. Linear thinking is thinking with words. Linear thinking means only one thing: using words to explain thoughts and ideas. Nothing else. Linear thinking is words. Linear thinking puts one word behind the other, like a little choo-choo train, like an assembly line. In fact, the manufacturing assembly line is the culmination of 2,000 years of increasingly focused linear thinking, setting aside anything that might be non-linear as non-scientific or non-credible. Now, you look at a program like Microsoft Word, ironically or not so ironically, a word processing system. And in that system, when it began, something like, 20, 30 years ago, you had a page, and across the top of that page were something like 8 menus, drop-down menus, right? And that was it. And every iteration of that product has increased the number of pages and the number of drop-down menus. It's perfectly linear. There's nothing intuitive about it. It gets recategorized a million ways a Sunday, and the next product you get, you have to completely relearn, which is exactly anti-intuitive. But the power of Microsoft's original innovation, which was a concept, the concept of compatibility and communication across platforms with one operating system. That concept was genius, and genius especially because they were able to accomplish it. And it's fueled their profitability since forever. That is the power of an extraordinary innovation. Now, look at the iPad. what Apple was able to do with the iPad, let me go back in history a little bit. When technology began producing this incredible software across the spectrum, let's say back in the 60s and 70s, a term came up called user-friendly. Because the problem was that the geeks are creating these linear programs, which they have to. Coding is a linear process. But then what the user was faced with was the clunkiness, the difficulties, the errors, the intolerable messiness and difficulty of linear processing and linear products and linear thinking. And so the term they came up with in those days was, let's make it user-friendly. User-friendly, as if we get to the end of the process and we go, oh yeah, we got to do something for the user too. You know, the user was so out of thought. And of course, Apple has always had the user present. If you go to one of the first Apple TV commercials, it was the infamous Macintosh ad that never shows you, until the very, very end, never shows you a Macintosh. That advertisement is about one thing and one thing only: disruption. Watch it again. That ad is only about disruption. It doesn't show a product, doesn't talk about a product, it's about disruption. And here's what Apple was able to do. Apple took the concept of functionality, which is linear. One menu, one drop-down menu, one item on the menu, you get that function. It's perfectly linear. Apple took that concept and raised a question and said, what if usability was not directly proportionate to functionality? Now, nobody in the industry had ever posed anything like this, certainly not Microsoft. Microsoft had always defined, and everybody followed suit, that usability was directly proportionate to functionality. You give people more functions, they have more uses for them. Perfectly clear. And so Apple raised a question that in linear terms is impossible. It's a contradiction. This is where innovations come from. The beating heart of an impossible contradiction that can only be solved by something that pops up in a nonlinear fashion. So what Apple did was, in facing usability and functionality, said, we can create usability with even less functionality. The iPod had no stylus, the iPad had no stylus, no distinct separate keyboard, no USB ports, less functionality. And the users are absolutely passionate about it. Passionate. That's innovation. That's what disruptive innovation is about. But you see, it comes at the heart of a conceptual contradiction that there's an enormous non-linear passion about, and non-linearity, and this is a whole different topic to get into that's under the surface of this, which brain neurology has been discovering the little bits of here and there and putting together this incredible masterpiece of what the human brain is capable of. Non-linearity is a form of thinking and a form of concentrated information that we have decided to call, for many, many centuries, feeling. Feeling. Curiosity, imagination, intuition, gut-level ideas, positivity, optimism, all of this, all of the energy and the meaning in this, which goes to great depths, we call feeling and dismiss for that reason. Now, I'm going to leave it here at this. My point is basically to talk about that little bit around innovation, and as a taste of how what I'm saying is that understanding nonlinear thinking makes it easy to understand what innovation actually really is, disruptive innovation, what it actually really is. And this information, which I haven't gone into, of course, the brain research, the neurological research behind all of it, which I've been following for 20 years, is exploding. It is exploding. This is coming to the surface and will transform everything that we know about education, about learning, and certainly about management and innovation. I'm very happy that World Forums is making a decision that includes, as I read in the document, something about the presenter's personality, because that's nonlinear. When you know, there's a feeling. When you have that certainty, there's a feeling, and that's nonlinear. Thanks.